What if the parts of yourself you've been avoiding are the key to who you really are? Today, we dive into the mind of Carl Jung, and once you see what he discovered, you'll never look at yourself the same way again. Ever wondered what lies beyond the surface? Religion, philosophy, science, life's biggest mysteries. At Sleepless Minds, we dive into the unknown and challenge the answers. The Deep Well, exploring the teachings of Carl Jung. Chapter 1. A doorway into the psyche. Imagine a Swiss landscape, snowy peaks, thick pine forests, and a lake so still it reflects the sky like a mirror. Here, nestled in the quiet town of Keswill, in 1875, a boy named Carl Gustav Jung was born. This boy would grow into a man who dared to explore the deepest corridors of the human Suleiman, who didn't just study the mind but mapped the hidden architecture of our inner worlds. Jung wasn't just a psychiatrist, he was a seeker, a mystic with the mind of a scientist. Where others saw disorders and symptoms, Jung saw messages from the unconscious. To him, dreams weren't nonsense, they were telegrams from the soul, coded in symbol and myth. His ideas would echo through psychology, literature, art, film, and even spirituality. And though he stood in the shadow of Freud for a time, he would eventually step away toward his own vision, toward the unconscious not as a trash heap of suppressed desires, but as a vast, mythic underworld. In this journey through Jung's teachings, we will descend into that underworld, not to lose ourselves, but to find something deeper. Because, as Jung believed, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Chapter 2. The Psyche's Architecture, Consciousness, the Personal Unconscious, and the Collective Unconscious. Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." To understand Jung, we begin by understanding his model of the psyche. Imagine a great cathedral with towers, catacombs, and hidden doors. Consciousness is the sunlit nave, where the ego resides, or sense of I, of self in the waking world. Beneath this lies the personal, unconscious place of forgotten memories, repressed experiences, and unresolved emotions. It is uniquely yours, filled with shadows and ghosts you've known before. But below that, deeper still, is what sets Jung apart from all others, the collective unconscious. This is no personal diary. It is an ancient library, a shared inheritance from all of humanity. It's filled not with specific memories, but with archetypes' primordial images, universal blueprints that shape how we see the world, how we dream, how we tell stories. These archetypes are eternal. They whisper through myths, surface in fairy tales, echo in movies, and appear in our dreams. The wise old man, the maiden, the trickster, the hero, the shadow. You know them already, even if you've never met them consciously. Jung taught us that within each of us is this shared spiritual DNA, influencing how we live, love, fear, and create. You don't just learn these archetypes, you feel them. They rise up from the deep and claim you. Chapter 3. The Shadow, Meeting the Hidden Self. It begins with a chill, a moment when the world doesn't make sense, when something inside you snarls instead of speaks, when you see in yourself something unflattering, cruel, strange. This is the shadow one of Jung's most powerful teachings. It is the part of ourselves we deny, repress, or exile. Not just the bad, but anything we consider unacceptable. For some, the shadow holds rage. For others, vulnerability, even brilliance, if it was never allowed to shine. But Jung didn't think we should destroy the shadow. Quite the opposite. He believed we must integrate it. Because the shadow isn't evil, it's human. To deny it is to live a half-life, to be a mask. But to face it is to become whole. And how do we meet it? In conflict, in dreams, in projection. When we hate someone for no clear reason, Jung would urge us to look again. What part of ourselves are we seeing in them? Often, what disgusts us in others is what we refuse to see in ourselves. Until you make the unconscious conscious, Jung wrote, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. To know your shadow is to reclaim your freedom. Chapter 4. Archetypes, the gods within us. In ancient myths, gods and monsters walk the earth. Heroes rise, fall, and rise again. These tales are not just entertainment, they are maps of the human psyche. Jung believed that archetypes are the forms without content. They are patterns that shape human behavior, emotion, and imagination across all cultures and times. Let's meet a few. The hero, the part of us that strives, endures trials, and seeks transformation. Think of Odysseus, Luke Skywalker, or Katniss Everdeen. The shadow. We've met this inner dark twin, our disowned self. In stories, it might be Darth Vader or Gollum. The anima, animus. These are the inner feminine in men and inner masculine in women. They shape how we relate to the opposite sex and also how we access our own unconscious potential. The wise old man, woman. The sage who guides the hero, think Dumbledore, Yoda, or Moana's grandmother, a symbol of deeper knowing. The trickster, the chaos agent, Loki, the Joker, or Bugs Bunny, the one who tears things down so something new can emerge. These archetypes live in stories, but also in us. When you feel torn between following the rules or breaking them, when you long for adventure, when you face your shadow, you're in mythic territory. Jung would say, don't just analyze the story, step into it, live it. Chapter 5. Individuation, the journey toward wholeness. If you took all of Jung's work and distilled it into a single flame, it would be this: individuation. Individuation is not perfection. It's not becoming good, or moral, or enlightened. It is the process of becoming your full, authentic, self-integrated, complex, and whole. It's a journey, not a destination. A spiral that loops through dreams, symbols, breakdowns, and breakthroughs. You face your shadow. You reclaim lost parts of yourself. You integrate your masculine and feminine energies. You listen to the soul. In Jung's words, individuation means becoming an individual, and, insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. Individuation asks, who are you when no one's watching? What is your destiny? Not in a grandiose way, but in the quiet voice that calls from within. This process often begins in midlife, when roles, careers, and achievements no longer satisfy, when the ego starts to crack and something deeper begins to speak. It is not a comfortable path, but it is a meaningful one. Chapter 6. Dreams. Letters from the unconscious. To Jung, dreams were not random. They were the psyche's own art form, rich with symbols, messages, and meaning. He called them spontaneous self-portraits of the unconscious, crafted in the language of metaphor. Jung didn't interpret dreams with a universal dictionary. He believed each dreamer must discover what their symbols mean. A snake in your dream may not be the same snake in mine, but he believed dreams often show us what we lack. If we're too rigid, they'll bring chaos. If we're too emotional, they'll bring structure. They seek balance, showing us our unlived lives. Working with dreams, Jung suggested, record the dream upon waking. Break it into scenes. Who appears? What happens? Find the emotional tone. How did it feel? Relate it to your waking life. What part of you might each symbol represent? Dreams are not problems to be solved, but conversations to be heard. Chapter 7. Synchronicity. The meaningful coincidence. You think of someone and they call. You see the same symbol appear in different, unrelated places. A book falls off a shelf, and it's exactly what you needed. Jung called this synchronicity a meaningful coincidence without causal connection. To the modern mind, this can seem mystical, but Jung saw it as the psyche interacting with the world in symbolic ways. It's not about magic, but meaning. Synchronicities often occur during times of inner transformation when we are closer to the unconscious, when the veil is thinner. They can feel like breadcrumbs on the path of individuation. Rather than dismiss them, Jung encouraged us to wonder, what is the message here? What is the story being told through these events? Synchronicity blurs the line between inner and outer worlds, reminding us we are not machines but beings woven into a living tapestry of meaning. Chapter 8. The Red Book, Descent into the Depths. After his break with Freud, Jung underwent a deep inner crisis. He called it his confrontation with the unconscious. Rather than resist, he turned inward. For years, he recorded dreams, visions, and fantasies in what became the Red Book, a stunning, handwritten, illustrated journal of his psychic journey. In it, Jung dialogues with characters from his unconscious, explores strange landscapes, and records visions that border on the mythic. He meets Philemon, a wise spirit who becomes a kind of inner guide. He grapples with God, death, madness, and meaning. The Red Book was so personal, so raw, that Jung kept it private for decades. It was only published posthumously in 2009. To read it is to witness a man diving into the depths of the human soul, not for ego, but for understanding. It's a reminder, the unconscious isn't just dark, it's also divine. Chapter 9. Jung Today, The Legacy and the Living Flame. Carl Jung died in 1961, but his work lives on not just in psychology, but in art, culture, and personal transformation, depth psychology, dream analysis, archetypal studies, myth criticism, narrative therapy all bear his fingerprint. Filmmakers like Stanley Kubrick and Christopher Nolan echo his symbols. Writers like Joseph Campbell drew from Jung in mapping the hero's journey. And spiritual seekers find in his work a bridge between psychology and the sacred. Jung didn't give us easy answers. He offered something better, a map for the soul. He reminds us that healing is not fixing what's broken, but becoming who you were meant to be. That wholeness requires darkness and light, reason and myth, ego and spirit. As you move through your own journey through joy and struggle, love and loss, perhaps the words of Jung will guide you too. Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but as you touch a human soul, be just another human soul.